Joined now by violence monitor Professor Mary de Haas from the University of Kwazulu Natal. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. You know, I know that you have monitored violence in Kwazulu Natal for many, many years, and we all know Umlazi's history. I mean, I think in the 80s, early 90s, it was a scene of factional battles between the ANC and the IFP. More recently, what's been going on at the Glebelands Hospital with, I think, over 100 people murdered. In fact, just in March, I think one of the hitmen was finally arrested. But it seems that this is a township with a bloody legacy. Would you agree? And do you think that that is partly at play?
Look, it is, but it's not the only township. I mean, if you look at, say, KwaMashu, you've got a history of violence in the hostels there, for example. The crime stats there, one of the worst crime stats comes from the Plesislau police station in Pietermaritzburg. So it's not just Umlazi, but indeed Umlazi has I mean, it's had gangsterism ever since I can remember, sort of 30, 40 years back. But, I mean, the gangsters were armed with knives then, so you didn't have whole groups of people massacred as you do now. That's the difference, I think. And the organised crime.
So we'll get to that. I want to, and I think my next question does point to that, because one of the things the police minister said today is that one of the people who was shot dead, I think Sunday or Monday, was actually celebrating being released from prison when the attackers opened fire on him. Does suggest some sort of gang-related, someone who's a criminal, who is being targeted. What can you make of these two mass killings in as many days this week?
Look, I mean, it's very difficult at this stage to draw conclusions, definite conclusions, but it looks as if they're gangs. The fact, or at least, yeah, opposing gangs. I mean, the townships are full of gangs. They're a phenomenon you will get all over the world in deprived areas, especially those that have a history of bad policing. And Umlazi has a really bad history of policing. I mean, we saw that just a few years back with Glebelands. It was, I mean, the policing was shocking. I mean, it's got a bad history going right back to when it was controlled by the KwaZulu police. Now, I think there's been some new management there, so it may make a difference. But it looks, I mean, it could have been when things happen like this, one after the other, one lot of shooting followed by another, it could be retaliation. I mean, it's you know, there's a lot of vigilante activity in this place. If this man had been released from prison, I'm not sure the circumstances, it might have been a revenge because he's believed to be a criminal and the criminal justice system isn't dealing with him, and that's a frequent problem in areas in this province.
Well, one thing the police minister said, that he was quite concerned it needs to be probed, that this victim that I mentioned, he had in fact been sentenced in total to some 12 years in prison, but somehow it was all suspended, which of course, you know, raises question about the authorities, you know.
No, indeed. I mean, look, we've also had in recent years, we've had huge problems with the Umlazi court. We saw this time and time again, Vanessa Berger and I, with the Glebelands killings. The Umlazi court functioned really badly. There were a lot of malicious arrests, people imprisoned and only to be let out. And then there were people, I mean, there were just a lot of bad things happening in terms of not getting the real criminals. Now, that's a mixture. You see, the thing is, it's a mixture of the police. If the police make a malicious arrest, then it's up to the prosecutors to actually say, but you haven't got enough evidence. It's also up to the prosecutors to make sure that the police build strong cases. So it's a mystery to me how this man suddenly gets out. I mean, a 12-year sentence that's suspended. I mean, it's not like a 6-month sentence that's suspended. A 12-year, was it a 12-year sentence?
He said, yeah. what the policeman said was a number of different judgments. So like maybe 3 years, 4 years, 2 years, and then suddenly it's all suspended. That's what it seems like.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like someone was taking the law. You know, if this guy's out, then we'll administer the justice ourselves. You know, the fact that we have such prevalent rates of vigilantism is a function, a symptom of a criminal justice system that's just not working properly, including the prosecution.
You mentioned organised crime, gangs. We also know that KwaZulu Natal, and the taxi industry in KwaZulu Natal, certain elements well known for breeding assassins. So there are so many elements that you're drawing our attention to. What do you think Umlazi needs? I mean, you know, it's a massive township, and there are obviously different problems in different areas, and some areas are better than others. But you know, when you see such a shocking double mass killing like this in 1 week, one has to ask, what urgent interventions do you think need to be applied immediately?
Look, there's a whole lot of things which are common to the other areas too, and the first starts with crime intelligence at the local level. I mean, if the police knows there are gangs there, what are they doing about it? What are they doing about the guns these guys have got access to? Now, you don't deal with that by going and kicking doors down and searching houses for guns. You deal with it through, firstly, crime intelligence, and that's not working at most systems, I gather, from what senior police tell me. And even then, if there's corruption in the station, and that's a management issue. If there's corruption, the names of informers may be leaked, they may be killed. So you start with having some proper crime intelligence about who the thugs are, what they're planning. That informs your proactive policing, and that's not happening, and it should happen. But you do roadblocks. I mean, you start with let's just say you start with the taxi ranks. You can do a check on whether all those guns are legal. You can do a check on all the bodyguards that people living there are running around with. Are they registered with SERA? Are those guns legal? So there's all sorts of things you can do, but it starts basically with information, and that informs what you do about planning to stop this happening, because the first prize is to stop it before it starts. I mean, that's what should be happening. And there you can do, but again, you need good police management. You need to run spot checks, spot roadblocks, because the other thing we know from experience is if you've got a weak link in the police, the knowledge of the roadblocks leaks out, and they don't run their guns that way. So, I mean, it's a problem that's okay. It's highlighted now in Umlazi, but believe me, it's not confined to Umlazi. Some police stations are better than others. We are hoping, with its recent history of really bad policing, a court system that's not functioning properly. We hope there'll be improvement. There is some new management at Umlazi, so we hope that will make a difference. I mean, a week after the malls were looted, I was sent a video of guys up on the roofs taking all the roofing materials off the stores and in the malls. There wasn't a police van in sight, so did nobody call the police to catch these guys? So it's kind of, I mean, it starts with intelligence. It starts with police management. It also starts with good detectives, services, forensic services, crime scene, the guns, the ballistics. But we've got to do something about guns in this province. This is just a symptom of a widespread problem. I think that the national office should establish a team from different places of people with clean records, a dedicated firearms team to check out on these things. Yeah. Working with SERA, perhaps.
Yeah, we've certainly seen so many concerns around what happens to those firearms once they're seized by the police. And thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. Professor Mary de Haas from the University of KwaZulu Natal.